joining us today, guys. We're back with Harvest Christian Fellowship. Today, my name's Alina Steele, and I have the privilege today of talking with Caroline McAllister. Oh my gosh, Caroline McAllister, who is part of our senior leadership team and has been with Harvest since its founding. So welcome, Caroline. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Alina. I'm excited.
Yeah. So why don't you tell all of our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Exactly. I've been at Harvest, almost since the beginning. We were just getting ready to have a 40th anniversary celebration. So I've been there not quite that long. I kind of joined in maybe that first year, but I've been a believer. Grew up in the church, but then I really committed my life to Christ when I was in college, and then just been growing in the Lord ever since. Just, I don't know what to say. Personally, I can say that been married, it'll be 25 years this year, and we have a 22-year-old son. I am a chef. I'm a personal chef, and then I'm an instructor at a cooking school here in Frederick. Also, I am a part of Marie Brown Ministries, and then travel with her overseas to help train leaders in other, generally Southeast Asian nations. So lots of things going on.
Right. Kind of all over the place.
I like to think I'm a fun person too. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. You also teach one of our teachers down in Kids Church. So our 11-year-olds, you've been doing that for a little bit now, and then the other thing that people would notice if they came to church on the first Sunday of every month, you also do our communion for us.
Yes, exactly.
How long have you been doing communion?
It's been a couple years. Justin asked me that. I was ordained a couple years ago. And as when I was ordained, my son said, "Do I have to call you Reverend Mom?" I'm like, "No." So it's been a couple years. And when I did that, Justin asked if I would start to lead the communion there at the church. So that's what I'm doing. I said, yes. So here we are.
Yeah. And that always goes really great. I think, because I remember before that, we kind of did it here and there. There really wasn't a schedule to it. So I like, my kids know that it's communion first Sunday of every month. They know that we're going to get that fantastic bread.
Yes.
They would eat an entire loaf themselves if we let them. So it's always a really great time. And I feel, your presence there, you always bring something new. It's like you think, oh, it's just communion. It's the same thing over and over again. But you do a really good job of bringing it new to us every single time. And then you have this great way of making it very simple. So our children, get a really good idea out of that, and yet making it still very deep as well. So I feel like you do a really good job of making it very broad and very new and very, maybe fun and exciting isn't the right word, but somewhere is in that. So kind of a different
attitude every time. When I first started doing it, I said, because I remember growing up in the Presbyterian church, and again, it was always the same every time. And you're always like, well, I don't, what is this? We get a little cup of juice, that kind of thing. So when I first started doing it, I said, God, I just want you to just show me things. And every month I'll say, God, what are you really highlighting? What aspect of this? Because it's so familiar, but it's yet so deep. So I always say, okay, God, what do you want to say to us this particular day? So that's where it comes from. It's, and I'm from that aspect, I'm a baker and a professional baker. So fresh bread is the best. So I'm always like, when we come every month, God, feed us fresh bread every single time.
That's really, really good. It definitely comes across. So kind of along the same lines of communion, we're worldwide dealing with this epidemic, pandemic, crisis, all this negative stuff that's going on. But, I know our church culture and in a lot of the meetings that we've been having, we all feel really positive, still, adhering to a lot of the wisdom going on with the social distancing. Obviously, we're all new here, because we're doing all of this virtual stuff, which is really fun and exciting. But is there anything that you can kind of draw in from us, maybe from a communion standpoint, or just, your own insight in everything that's going on, and give encouragement or words like that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's very true that communion is not just reserved for when we do it at church, or, once a quarter, or something like that. It can be, Jesus said, as often as you do this. So that opens it up that you can do it as often as you want, as you need, as you feel like. It's a covenant meal. It's a reminder of things that are already ours. And I think it's really important right now in this day and age, what we are experiencing every day when stuff is swirling around us, that we remember our roots, we remember who we are, that we keep grounded in that kind of thing. And communion has the power to do that.
Mm.
It's not just what you've learned in the past, but it's what are you believing today? What are the thoughts that are going through your head today? What are the things that are rising up out of your heart, your spirit man today? And communion has the power to ground us in that. So I've been hearing a lot of leaders, been watching a lot of services online, and they're taking communion. And I do it on a pretty regular basis. It's just because, again, it just grounds you. I remember my mom, who was just a real, we kind of grew up together. And I want to say that in the sense, as we grew up as Christians together, we both got born again about the same time.
Mm.
And so we really started exponential growth after we got born again. And that's when we got hooked into the worship center, which was what Harvest began as. And so my mother was like a just spiritual sister to me. And when my mother had breast cancer, she really hooked into the Lord and really hooked into healing. And she took communion every single day. When she was undergoing treatment, she took communion at home every day. So that really spoke to me. That was really very powerful. And she was healed of breast cancer. So,
Wonderful. Yeah. So what if maybe some of our viewers only ever had communion in church, maybe had not even experienced that in a non-denominational church? I grew up Catholic, so my view of what communion is a lot different than what my view is of it now. You said it's okay for us to do it at home. I can feel even, the Catholic still inside of me having some reservations about doing that myself. What does that look like? What are some important key elements maybe that we should be doing when we're doing this ourselves at home?
Yep. Well, I think obviously we all know the things from 1 Corinthians 11 that Paul teaches us about communion. And, he says not to do it irreverently or, to bring judgment on yourself. That's a whole aspect right there. So it's something that you really want to set aside some time for. You really want to, if God puts it in your heart, absolutely go right ahead. But you really want to think about what you're doing. It's not the same as fixing yourself a snack, kind of thing. So, I just use any kind of bread or a cracker or something like that. In the past, I don't have it right now, but in the past, I've kept the matzah, because that's, got our Jewish heritage in it. That's the bread that they use at Passover. And Passover communion, originally when Jesus celebrated Passover with the disciples, and it became the communion meal, that's what they partook of was, the unleavened bread. But any kind of bread, you can consecrate it to the Lord. It can be a loaf of store-bought bread. It can be something that you made, whatever it is. And then, according to what you believe, it can be juice. It can be wine. It can be whatever is, the conviction of your heart. I've had it with grape juice, apple juice. I've heard of people in the bush in Africa, they're hosting meetings, and only thing they had was RC cola. So they consecrated it and used it. It's not the item itself. It's you consecrating it to the Lord, that you can do it that way. So that's how it is.
Right. So what does consecrating mean, and how do we do that?
It's the same way that you offer yourself up to the Lord. It's just saying, God, here's what I've got. Here's who I am. I give it to you, and I dedicate it to you. So it doesn't make it any more holy. It doesn't make it any more special, except that you've offered it up to God. And then that's what makes it, that's what puts the power behind it. That's what, it's you giving of yourself, giving of these elements and saying, here it is, God. and then I'm offering it up to you, and you can make it what it is.
Absolutely. So I love that you're saying that we can really make it anything that we want it to. So whether we want to put on worship music, whether we want it to be quiet, whether, regardless of what kind of bread we're using or juice we're using, or maybe we don't even have any juice, or something. Just even, I know some people that just do the sacrifice. Like, I'm just going to mentally sit here and give something up to you and give you some reverence, just almost kind of like a head nod, but just really, it's really coming from our heart, and really offering up to God, and creating it that way. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, man looks on the outward part, but God looks inside. So it's what you're doing in your heart. It's your attitude. It's your reverence. It's part of your worship, and nobody can define that by what you're doing on the outside. It all comes from the heart. So that's what it is. So I think it's, in this day, what we're going through right now, we are at home. We can't be together at church. So it may be important for you and your family to take communion together, and just read the scriptures and then just pray and consecrate it. And God turns it into something holy. God's the one that consecrates the offerings anyway. In the Old Testament, he told them what to bring. And then they brought those sheep, they brought those animals, and it was this consecration of the animals. It was God that made them the holy sacrifice. And the same thing with us. We bring ourselves to him. We bring what we have to him, and he consecrates it.
Yes. Oh, such a good point. So that's, kind of, we were trying to, pull out and get with everybody today. Is there anything else in your own personal journeys, anything that God has been specifically highlighting to you during this timing of this last week and a half of isolation, or anything else just in general that you'd like to share with everyone?
Well, it's a funny time. We've never had a time like this, but I think that we're prepared. If we've been in the Word, if we've been walking close to God, this is a time to draw even closer. And it is, it's not to say that it's not a scary time, because it is. We're hearing all the stuff. All the things are swirling around us all the time. But what are you allowing into your heart? Me personally, it became a time when just the other day, I took a day and just did some fasting and said, God, what is really in the foundation of my belief? Is there anything that, maybe I've taken for granted, I've let slide, or anything like that? So I think that as a nation, and I think as a body, and I think personally as believers, we're really looking at who are we? What do we really believe? What's the foundation? What's the core? And if you go back and you see that your core and your foundation is strong, amen, go for it. If you go back and go, well, I kind of let that thing slide a little bit. This is where you dig in now. This is where you really get into the Word. This is where you really draw close to God. And, it's your decision. It's your time. It's your place. So you can do that. So I think it's a great opportunity for that. Not that we really wish this kind of thing on anybody, but this is the time, take advantage of it. So that's what I've been doing. And, just doing things. And then at the same time, it becomes a time and a place for the church to reach out. Every day I'm saying, okay, God, who can I reach out to? Who can I encourage today? Who can I send a text to? Who can I email? Who can I call? So I've been calling some of my customers, people that I have contact with, people that I work with, and say, hey, how you doing? And what can I pray for you today? How can I encourage you today? That kind of thing.
Yes.
So it's time to look in, and it's a time to look out as well. So personally, that's what I've been doing. So
that's awesome. That's really great. And thanks again for joining today and being so encouraging and giving us a little insight, a little bit more depth into communion and how we can be doing that for ourselves while we're isolated. So thanks again for joining me. And thanks to all of our viewers today as well for joining and watching in as we do this journey of virtually coming to you and connecting with you. So if you're watching on our Facebook page or Instagram page, make sure you're putting something below. We'd love to know where you're listening from. All the things, maybe you're doing at home, or maybe God's speaking something encouraging to you. We'd love for you to share that here with the entire body and everyone that's watching. So thanks for liking and sharing our page, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.